My name is Peter Davison. I played the Fifth Doctor, and you're listening to the Five-ish Fangirls.
Shiver my timbers, shiver my soul. Yo ho heave ho. There are men whose hearts are as black as coal. Yo ho heave ho.
The tangents this week continue all the way to episode 313 of the Five-ish Fangirls podcast. Off to Zanzibar to meet the Zanzibar Barbarians. Welcome, everyone, to this week's episode of the Five-ish Fangirls podcast. So glad you could join us. Let's start off like I do every week on the virtual table and see who's joined us this week.
This is Chrissy in Salt Lake City.
And this is Rachel in Hoth. On Hoth. Inside a snow globe. Inside of snowpocalypse.
Yes. They've transplanted to the North Pole, I suppose.
Yes. Chauncey was re-watching the Metallica concert from Antarctica in the solidarity of today's weather.
Yes, so everyone who's getting snowed on and those who, power and all that is being affected, please be safe. Please be careful.
Yeah. As it is, Brittany is still getting slammed.
Yes, poor girl.
Among other things, that's East Coast for you.
Seriously.
Why I'd never live there.
Live up in the Midwest, though.
Yeah, which winter can be hit or miss for us.
Yeah.
But for us to get this much snow in one 24-ish hour period is not usually par for the course for us. So a good chunk of the state is under a travel warning, and it has been snowing since consistently since lunchtime. We had a couple of inches overnight, and then it stopped, and then it picked up again around lunchtime. It has not stopped since, and we're getting like a half an inch to an inch an hour.
Good grief.
So, yeah. At least now the sun's gone down, so I can't see it.
We got a bunch, but it kind of quit. So there's snow on the ground, but we can get around. It's all right. No snow days, so
yeah.
The skiers are happy, I guess.
Yeah, I bet. I bet they are. I like.
Oh yes. Yep.
Yeah. Shawnee's very excited when this stops to go out and build a snowman.
Yes. Yes.
It's been several years since he's been able to do that.
We'll take pictures and let us know how it turns out.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I'm over here like, go away, Anna.
Like, we're done. We're done.
I don't want to build a snowman. Alrighty. Well, we shall veer ahead.
Yes, let's.
Hoist the sails. So first we need to do some news. Yep. And our first piece of news is actually a piece of news that we missed. I completely forgot about adding it last week, and actually in Shalane's feedback she mentions it. Like, oh yeah, thanks for the reminder. I thought about it after we'd already recorded and I was editing. I was like, oh yeah, forgot about that. So Christopher Plummer, who I think pretty much everybody knows him from The Sound of Music, as Captain Von Trapp, has passed away at the age of 91.
Yeah, I think Sound of Music is about the only one of his movies I'd seen, and it's been a while, but still, it's like, I know the name, I know who he is. It's a hard one. For sure.
But 91. That's
91. You can't really sneeze at that, can you?
Yep. So should be. I know based on what I've read, reading the articles that have come out since his passing, talking about his love-hate relationship with his role in The Sound of Music. So that should make for an interesting discussion when we get to that on Gold Standard.
Oh, I'm sure.
So, but yeah. So there's that.
Yeah.
I think at the moment, Sound of Music is on Disney Plus.
Could be.
Yeah.
I haven't looked.
Yeah, I think it was. So probably still is. And a little closer to home, I did want to mention this. Unfortunately, I've yet to get out there. One of these days, as it is, it's like one of these days I'll get out there. But I've known about the Blue Box Cafe for quite a while because, being a Doctor Who fan, you learn about these things. But in the suburbs of Chicago, I guess, there is a restaurant, coffee bar, and deli called the Blue Box Cafe, and it's exactly what it sounds like. It is Doctor Who themed. We actually had Chris, one of the owners, on the show couple years ago now when we did our big round table dream convention episode.
Yeah, that was a year, or more than a year ago, 2 years, 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Quite a while.
Yeah, so it was a family-owned business owned by a husband and wife team, Chris and Kathleen. But Kathleen, his wife, has unexpectedly passed away. She went to take a nap before going to work and just didn't wake up.
Oh.
Yeah. So they temporarily closed the restaurant, but they have reopened. But they were just kind of a staple of the neighborhood. So there is service, visitation, as we're recording this, is scheduled for this Thursday in Elgin, and then there's a service set for Friday, which they're actually going to be streaming that. So I guess if people want to watch, I'll put a link to the article. It's got that link in the show notes. But a fellow friend of theirs and fan and all of that has set up a GoFundMe to help with the expenses, because obviously this was unexpected.
Yeah.
So we will also put a link to the GoFundMe in the show notes as well. So.
Well, then that is hard, and seriously, all of the good feelings, all the prayers, everything goes out to their family and that community, because that is. I have no words. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So, hopefully, if our listeners are so inclined to, contribute to the GoFundMe, please.
Yes.
Feel free to do so. If you can't, please share it. The link.
Yes.
Funerals are unfortunately expensive, whether they're planned for ahead of time or not.
Yes. Yeah. And it's hard.
Yeah. So let's move on to some happier news. Coming out of across the pond, the royal family has been busy.
One of these is across the pond.
Yeah, well, that's true. Well, that ties. It's still their family across the pond.
True.
But Princess Eugene, who got married in the last.
Is it Eugene or Eugenie?
Yeah, I always called her Eugene.
Okay. I've only ever seen the name written, so
yeah, I've always called her Eugene, and I think that's how I've heard it pronounced.
Okay.
On things. Anyway, her and her husband Jack welcomed their first baby, a boy.
Mm-hmm.
No name yet has been announced. As the royals are to do, they like to wait on these things.
there are procedures and I don't know, tradition in place, let us say.
Yeah. Yep. But yeah, so 8-pound, 1 ounce baby boy.
Congratulations.
Yep. So this is the Duke of York and Sarah Ferguson's first grandchild, and the Queen's 9th great grandchild.
Congratulations to all involved. That is exciting.
Yep. And then just as the Queen and the and Prince Philip are celebrating great grandchild number 10, they are 9. They can now start counting towards great grandchild number 10, because Harry and Meghan, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, are expecting baby number 2.
Yay! Yay!
Which is exciting, especially considering that they at least Meghan has been very open the fact that they were expecting baby number 2 and lost it to miscarriage last year. Yeah, so they are the picture that they released is very beautiful, but at the same time makes me very jealous because they're in California, so it's like they're presumably in their yard. Yes. At their home in California, and Harry's barefoot and Meghan's just in this, lightweight dress, barefoot on the ground, bare shoulders, and I'm like, meanwhile, I've got half a foot of snow and counting. So,
well, it's California. They'll be on fire in the summer.
Yeah.
So, there are trade-offs. And I am saying this from Utah, where we just had one big snowstorm, but not big enough. So we'll probably have a little bit of fire season ourselves. So
yeah,
But there you go.
Yep. So Archie's gonna be a big brother.
Yay! Good for them.
Yep. So yay! Always good news.
See.
And then that's really it. A little bit of the housekeeping. I am I've been recording like crazy.
No kidding.
But stuff is not getting released nearly as fast as we're recording it, so you're just gonna have to hold your horses, folks, if you're wanting to hear more. But part 2 of my short mini series on Next Stop Everywhere, a Doctor Who podcast, is now out there. So we cover essentially the second story in the overall trial of a Time Lord, which is Mind Warp, which is Perry's goodbye. So we dive into that, and once again the behind the scenes drama that was happening at the time. Poor Colin. His entire tenure as the Doctor is just a hot mess behind the scenes.
It's
Yep. And finally, my first episode my first appearance and first episode on Brandon Peters' new show, The Brandon Peters Show. His old space show segment is now available as well, where we talk about the start of Colin Baker's run with the Twin Dilemma.
Good old Twin Dilemma.
Yep. So we'll be covering Brandon's show. We'll be covering everything up to right before Trial of a Time Lord, and then on Next Up Everywhere, we're doing all of Trial of Time Lord. So by the end of the month, thereabouts, I will have covered all of Colin Baker's run on TV as the Sixth Doctor.
Now your big goal is on a podcast cover all of his Big Finish.
Well, yeah.
Not that it doesn't keep coming.
Yeah, I would say that would never end. Not that I would complain. So
No.
I should pit. What I should do is pit the two podcasts against each other and have them fight it out over whose show I'm going to be on to talk about dimensions and time.
Oh yes. Well, you already had a dry run for us.
Yeah.
I mean, it was part of the whole all the anniversary Doctor Who specials.
Yeah.
But still. It was the only time the Sixth Doctor met the Brigadier on TV.
Mm-hmm. So for that, I consider it canon.
Yes.
Even if it is
in a very, very odd way.
Yeah. It is the Sixth Doctor and the Brigadier meeting face to face on TV, and it's got the Ronnie in it, so
Yes.
Can you really complain?
I love the Ronnie.
I do awesome. Too. Yeah. Yeah. I've already actually recorded the episodes for the two stories after Twin Dilemma. But those will be released sporadically along with the other segments that Brandon does on his show. So I'm not exactly sure when those will be released. But yeah, once I meet up with him again to record, we will be talking about my two favorite my two favorite Sixth Doctor stories back to back. Mark of the Ronnie and the Two Doctors. So speaking of the Ronnie, I'm very excited about that.
Yay. Mark of the Ronnie is great.
Yes, it is.
That is one of those I watched.
That is my flag that my Doctor Who fandom flag that I have firmly planted on the hill. Bring back the Ronnie on TV. So, please and thank you.
Yes. Yeah, that was one that first time I watched, I was like, I think it was one of the first Sixth Doctor ones I watched. I was like, why do people hate the Sixth Doctor so much?
Mm-hmm.
You people are silly.
Yeah.
But anyway, so check those out wherever you get your podcasts.
Mm-hmm. Pretty much. They're available pretty much everywhere. So,
yeah.
Lot is that. So, moving on to feedback, like I said, included in her feedback from Shalane. So besides her mention of we forgot Christopher Plummer's passing, the rest of Shalane's feedback, she is talking about Hunchback, because we talked Hunchback of Notre Dame in our last episode. And yeah, she thinks that nowadays that more animated movies are PG, because we were talking about it's like, how did this get a G rating?
Yes. and the sliding the scale of ratings over the years has
changed.
It's changed. It is not a good indicator of content in a movie. It's just not.
Yeah, but she agrees that it probably should have been a PG at least.
Yes, I think in the day it was like, no, Disney, they're G-rated always, never PG. But then,
she says that she's also never read the book, but apparently a friend of hers has, and says that it's kind of creepy.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So she'll stick with the Disney version.
Yeah.
So, and she does mention something that we did not mention, and we even talked about that once we finished recording. It was like, we really got into the weeds with it, and there's a lot of things that we did not mention. Like the fact that there was a stage musical version. There was a Hunchback Show at the Disney parks for a while, which that usually is just a condensed down version of the movie. Whatever hot movie is at the time, it's really just a little bit of story and then all the musical numbers. So yeah, they had a Hunchback Show for a while, at the Disney parks, and that's before when I was going as a kid. So I never got to see it, but from what I've heard from friends who are old enough to remember, that it was actually one of probably their best that they've seen since they've been going to Disney. But yeah, there was a full-on musical pre-Disney Broadway like they do now with pretty much everything. It never made it to Broadway. That it was actually in German. And then it came to the United States, but not Broadway for like a very short stint, but it did not go over well. But it really fleshed out the characters a lot more. It actually gave you, it ties in more to the actual book, unlike the kind of opera that we talked about, which the cartoon is based on more of the opera, but the musical was based more on the actual book, where Frollo actually has more of a backstory. He has a brother that ends up getting into a relationship with a gypsy woman, and Quasimodo is actually their son. And there's this whole baby swap thing with Esmeralda, and yeah, it's a whole thing.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Days of our Hunchback. Holy
yeah,
cow.
a little bit. But yeah, it did not do very well. There is a cast recording out there though, if you want to hear some of the musical numbers that were created for it, because obviously with stage show musicals, there's way more musical numbers than in movies. So yeah, there you can find like clips and stuff from performances out there on the YouTubes, and you can read up more about it. But yeah, that was one of the things we did not get into, was other adaptations beyond the cartoon.
But there are many. Just search and you'll find them.
Yeah. And then Shalane mentioned some of her favorite parts from the cartoon movie. A lot of the funny parts, like when Esmeralda's running away from the guards after the festival, and she's outsmarting them, with her acrobatics, and when the not gargoyles, the grotesques, are talking to Quasimodo, and they think that I don't remember the scene exactly, but they think somebody says something about how Frollo's nose is too long.
Frollo's nose is long and he wears a dress.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Or when the captain and Esmeralda meet and they have the little sword fight, and he's like, "Easy, I just shaved this morning."
Yeah. So I mean, there is some humor. There is a lot of humor in it. It's just, I mean, there's always humor in the Disney movies. You just are kind of not expecting the hellfire.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's all right.
Yep. And then another thing we did not mention when talking about the cartoon, but she did bring up, are some of the Easter eggs in the movie, including Quasimodo's first number, where he's overlooking, the town of Paris, as he's lamenting to be able to be out there. And you see characters like Belle walking through the town.
Yep.
There's the carpet from Aladdin. I actually think besides Belle, I think one of the townsfolk is also one of the townsfolk from the Beauty and the Beast, when Belle is singing about his provincial life, and it's the lady that's like, "I need 6 eggs."
Yes.
The big bosom lady
with all the kids.
Yes. Yeah, I'm pretty sure she's in that scene too. I actually spotted her first. No idea why.
Well, that one takes place in France. Hunchback of Notre Dame's in France.
Yep.
So it makes sense to have those characters do cameos.
Oh yeah. Although I don't think Beauty and the Beast takes place in Paris, because
no, it's
supposed to be this small little country town.
I think it's been meant to be the Provence area, but still, France. It's Sonoma.
They figure same country. Let's throw those Easter eggs in there.
Yeah. And, that's less design that you have to do, I guess.
Yeah.
I suppose. I don't know. I'm just throwing stuff out there.
Hey, Disney loves Easter eggs.
Yes, they do.
So
probably not as much as Pixar, but...
Yeah.
But they do them.
Yep. So, thank you, Shalane, for the feedback and the reminder of some things that we did skip over last episode.
Yes.
Like I said, we really got into the weeds.
We did.
Week,
so hopefully you got something out of that. If not, oh well.
Yep. So, well, I know Chauncey, he was working like behind me and could hear at least my side of the conversation. He's like, you were really getting into it. So I'm like, yeah, we were.
Yep. I blame the depth of the source material, because when you're talking about something deep, you kind of tend to go a little deep yourself. At least I do. I don't know how other people are.
Yeah. Thank you, Victor Hugo.
Yes.
Just wait till we talk about Les Mis.
Oh gosh.
Which, funnily enough, I had went and seen a live. Remember live theater? Speaking of going to the theater, the same day that we recorded that episode last week, because time. So a year ago, it was a Sunday, and I went down to Bloomington to see a live production of Les Mis, but it was the same calendar date. So apparently February 6th is Victor Hugo Day for me. I don't know.
It's just how it happened.
Yeah. It's just the way things happen. But yeah, we're going to have to talk Les Mis at some point, because that is one of my absolute favorite stage musicals of all time, and I will need to send you a link to a proper performance of it that's not the movie.
Okay, because I have never
with Hugh Jackman.
I have never seen a stage production of it. I have seen the movie with
Hugh Jackman,
with Hugh Jackman, and the one with Liam Neeson that is not a musical.
Yeah,
which I quite liked. In fact, that was the first adaptation of it I'd ever seen, which is kind of weird because I had a lot of friends in theater and stuff growing up, and they were like, oh, like Les Mis was their thing, and I was like, okay, cool, maybe I'll watch it someday, and I just never got around to it. Then I saw the one that is not a musical, and I'm like, oh, hey, this is kind of cool. And then I saw the Hugh Jackman one, and I'm like, oh, okay, sure.
Yeah.
Russell Crowe.
No, if your introduction to the musical is Hugh Jackman and Russell Crowe, you're gonna have the same response that you had. Like, why is everybody obsessed with this? I don't get it.
Yeah, that actually was my thing, because I was like, people have been losing their minds about this my whole life, and I finally see it. And I mean, I understand like the whole moral story and all that, or and that kind of thing, but I'm like, this is not my thing. But I mean, Jared would probably have the same reaction you did, because their family goes to a lot of plays, or they did.
Yeah.
When we're not in a pandemic.
Yeah.
Which I like the theater. There's just some that I'm like, okay, I'm overhyped on this. You can simmer down now.
Yeah.
Stop trying to sell me on this.
Yeah.
And let's go see The Music Man.
Yeah.
That one's my favorite.
Oh, I love Music Man. So yeah. We love reading, but sometimes it's hard to find time to physically sit down with a book, which is why the Five-ish Fangirls has proudly partnered with Audible. Audible is a leading provider of spoken word entertainment and audiobooks, ranging from bestsellers to celebrity memoirs. Whatever makes you squee, there's a perfect listen for you. Every month, members get 1 credit to pick any title, plus 2 Audible originals. Whether you're adventuring through time and space, running from dinosaurs, or capturing ghosts, with the free app, audiobooks go where you go. You can download titles and listen offline, anytime, anywhere. Even if you switch devices, you'll never lose your place. And right now, Five-ish Fangirls listeners can sign up for a free 30-day trial by going to audibletrial.com/5ish fangirls. That's 30 days to check out not only their huge collection of audiobooks, but also podcasts, guided wellness programs, theatrical performances, A-list comedy, and exclusive Audible originals you won't find anywhere else. So continue the joy of reading with Audible. Don't see a title that trips your trigger one month? No problem. Your credit will roll over to the next month, and you can quit anytime and keep the books you've acquired forever. For more details and to sign up for your free 30-day trial, visit audibletrial.com/5ish fangirls. That's audibletrial.com/5ish fangirls. And now, back to the podcast. Victor Hugo. What a author. So, well, we're going to be moving on here to another adaptation from a well-known author. And I don't think we're going to be getting quite into the weeds.
No, probably not.
Because this is pretty straightforward. I mean, the description for it on IMDb is a Muppet twist on a classic tale. That's it.
Wow, that is the synopsis.
Short. Yeah.
I mean, yes, that technically that is what it is, but can't you say something more about it? Anyway.
Yeah. So Treasure Island, the original novel written by Robert Louis Stevenson, which I think was a go-to for many a poor high school English class student at some point, probably. Has, again, a lot of adaptations.
Yes.
They are wont to do with these classic novels. But in 1996, so 25 years ago, was the Muppet adaptation, Muppet Treasure Island.
Yep.
Because that was that's the way they name things. Muppet Christmas Carol, Muppet Treasure Island.
It kind of felt like at the time that they were trying to just, not just, but trying to do like, okay, we're going to do the Muppet version of, classic literature. And with Christmas Carol, it worked really well. And Treasure Island, it's kind of, it's a little more wacky.
Yes.
And I'll say this. So about 2 years ago, holy cow, time is just getting away from me. Whenever it was Disney Plus first came out, so about 1.5 years ago, I guess.
Yeah.
We were sitting down and I was like, okay, Alex, we're going to show you stuff. And we were really into the Muppets. So I showed him Muppet Treasure Island and he loved it. Like, he just laughed through the whole thing because there's so many jokes. It's so it's so funny, and Gonzo and Rizzo are hilarious. I'm like, okay, you like that? I will sit him down and we will watch Muppet Christmas Carol too. And he was bored because it's a little more talky and a little more sentimental, I suppose, which is not a bad thing. But it was just always funny to me that, like, my little boy, he loved Treasure Island, but he wasn't huge into Muppet Christmas Carol, which, either way, it kind of it makes sense because he was 2, almost 3.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're a little kid, you want all the crazy antics and the laughter and the loud and the craziness. And I guess when you're older, you're like, oh, I like the more poignancy. But anyway, that just always kind of amused me.
Yeah, this was their follow up to Christmas Carol, which was hugely successful.
Yes.
And to this day, is kind of a classic that people go to. But I mean, it is a holiday movie, so it kind of has a certain time of year where you expect to watch it. Yeah.
Yeah,
unless you're one of those people that is like Christmas all year round. Yeah, more power to you, I guess.
Well, even so, you're like, you're like, that's a Christmas thing. You want it to be special. At least I do. So now you have Muppet Treasure Island.
Yeah. So, and of course, as we
all the time.
Yeah, we did a whole episode about Muppet Christmas Carol, and of course, that was their first big studio film after Jim's passing. So at this point, his son Brian had taken over as director and producer for pretty much everything Muppet related. It was on Brian's shoulders essentially to keep his father's legacy going. And Christmas Carol done so well, it's like, okay, great. We know that the Muppets doing their version of a classic piece of literature works, at least in this case. So they were like, okay, well, what can you do next? And, they batted around ideas. And at one point they thought about maybe doing like King Arthur, with knights and maybe dragons and, magic and Merlin and all that. But then they stumbled upon Treasure Island, and the Kirk Thatcher, who was one of the writers for the screenplay, said that they eventually agreed that Treasure Island was a better story for the Muppets to take on than the whole King Arthur thing. And as movie ideas go, of course it went through several versions before they landed on the final version of the script. At first, Jim Hawkins was not going to be one character but two, and it was going to be Gonzo and Rizzo playing Jim and Hawkins.
Oh man.
But they scrapped that because they realized that Jim Hawkins as a character, he's kind of our person we follow through this adventure, and it's kind of his coming of age story, from being this poor boy working in this inn to the life of an adventurer dealing with pirates and sailing the high seas and stuff. So it's like, no, he needs to be an actual person, a single character.
And where, I mean, I can understand why they wanted to do Gonzo and Rizzo together, because they work so well in Christmas Carol, and they work really well here. But here they're the comic relief, and Jim Hawkins is not a comic character, and so that would kind of hurt your story if you did that. So yeah, I agree. I think making having him be the straight man, so to speak, to Gonzo and Rizzo,
who are essentially playing themselves.
Yes, which, that works when you got Muppets.
Yes.
Let them play themselves.
Yeah.
Especially Gonzo. He's Gonzo.
Yeah.
In all senses of the word.
Yes. Yep. He is he's a weirdo.
Yeah. I mean you had him be the straight up narrator in Christmas Carol, but let's not ruin, wear that technique out, I suppose.
Yeah.
But
yeah. So we've got most of the classic crew. So we've got Gonzo and Rizzo as essentially playing themselves. You've got Kermit playing the captain of the ship that they end up using on their adventure, the Hispaniola.
Yep.
As Captain Abraham Smollett. You've got Fozzie as Squire Trelawney.
Oh, geez.
Along with the man that lives in his finger,
Mr. Bimbo.
Yes.
Like, okay.
Yep. And Miss Piggy, who actually doesn't appear till 2/3 of the way through this movie. Instead of having Ben Gunn, they have Benjamina Gunn.
Yes.
Hermit or Smallies X that he apparently left at the altar. One of a kind of a pseudo running gag just throughout the Muppets is Kermit's inability to commit to Miss Piggy.
To the point where she has to trap him in Muppets Take Manhattan, but never mind.
We've got a lot of the other, we've got, we see a lot of the other characters. Sam Eagle actually has a big role in this.
Yes.
As Mr. Arrow, kind of the first mate to Captain Smollett. And then, we've got the band, the Electric Mayhem band. Statler and Waldorf are the figureheads on the ship instead of having like a mermaid, on the front of the ship.
Yes, and they got stuck there because they were going on a cruise, and somehow they ended up on front of the ship because I guess they were probably too cheap to spring for actual rooms.
Yeah,
would be my guess.
Yeah. We see the Swedish chef, which gives us our kind of hidden Mickey. There's a joke in itself where he's like making food. He's like, you take the mousey and he's putting the skewery, putting on a shish kebab, but it's like kind of a pseudo Mickey Mouse shape made out of like fruits and vegetables, and they chop, shoves it on the skewer and throws it in the pot.
Well, how else were we going to get him in this movie?
So one character that only makes a short appearance and does not speak is Rolf.
Yes, because he's playing the piano.
Yeah, he's at the tavern.
Yeah,
but he makes a short appearance because and if maybe you didn't realize he does not appear in Muppet Christmas Carol at all. Because after
he is there, he plays the piano, but he doesn't speak. He has like a one little scene.
Yeah.
In the part when Animal at the Fozziewig party, and Animal starts drumming and they rock out, and he's playing the piano.
Yeah.
Really.
He doesn't get to like be like part of the cast for quite a while. Because he was one of the Muppets done by Jim, and a lot of people actually considered Rolf to be closest to Jim's actual personality, even more than Kermit.
Right.
So they did not want to recast him right away. So Rolf makes very short appearances in several of the movies, but does not go back to being a speaking part for quite a while.
Yeah. It does take them a while, but they get there.
Yeah. And then we got a whole bunch of like new characters playing mostly characters on the ship, part of the crew. And then you've got your live characters, your humans, with Billy Connolly as Billy Bones, who dies really early on in the movie.
And this is supposed to be a kids movie.
Yes. He really likes having the mantle, though, that he is the only person to ever die in a Muppet movie.
That is a badge of honor.
Yep.
Which, I mean, if you're gonna have Treasure Island, then you got to have Billy Bones bite it.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah. I mean, he's not in the movie very long because he dies very early on. But Billy Connolly is just he's one of those character actors that he just kind of pops up in things and can just be a scene chewer if need be. So I did not expect anything less from him in this movie, and that's exactly what he did.
Jimmy Jim.
Yep.
I'm not Jimmy Jim.
He's Jimmy Jim, Jimmy Jim, 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 Jim. Jim, 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 Jimmy. And make sure you don't, what is it? Make sure no running with scissors. It's all fun and games until
somebody loses a...
Yeah. I mean, it's just, it's hilarious. And I love it.
Yeah.
I do. Billy Connolly needs to be in more things. I have spoken.
And then Jennifer Saunders, who you'd probably barely recognize under the fat suit and the kind of warts and stuff and the bad teeth that they gave her as Miss Blooveridge, the woman who runs the tavern that Jim and Gonzo and Rizzo are working at. But again, Jennifer Saunders, another English comedian who probably is best known for Absolutely Fabulous. So where her character Adina has just been making the rounds, smoking like a chimney since I can hardly remember, seems like. And then our two main live action folk, you have Kevin Bishop as Jim Hawkins once they decided to make him his own person.
Yes.
And this was actually like his first gig. So he's done stuff off and on since then. Not anything that I have watched, so I thought I recognized him, but I think it reminded me of someone else. He actually, the poor kid, he went through puberty.
Oh gosh!
While filming this, so all of his singing, they had to dub with his early recordings.
Oh geez, poor kid. Yeah, well, I don't know. I like over the years I've noticed that because he's the songs, his singing is one way, and then his spoken voice, it doesn't quite fit. And I always thought like, oh, maybe they got somebody else to sing, but no, that is him. It's just in two different sections of his life.
Yep.
Before puberty,
with hormones and after hormones.
Yes, that's the trick with the. Well, I don't want to say child actors, but tween actors, young teenage actors.
Yeah,
is the risk you run, but you're not gonna. But Jim Hawkins he's a young guy, so you kind of have to play in that way. But he does a good job.
Yeah,
I especially with the really like the dramatic moments after because he we'll get to this. He becomes friends with Long John Silver, and then eventually finds out he's a bad guy, and he's got to choose between his friends Rizzo and Gonzo, or does he choose to go with the villain? So, I mean, he it's a serious part, and he does really well for his age, but it's I'm trying to praise him.
Yeah, I mean he does as well as he can, as he can, considering if you're familiar with the source material, this movie is way more brutal and violent than this movie is, because I mean it is a Muppet movie, and it is a Disney movie essentially too, so they have a reputation to maintain, so they need to so it's like when a pirate gets cursed with the black spot, it's like Billy Connolly is able to play it up for laughs, even though he's a guy that's essentially just now been cursed and is going to die any minute.
Yes.
So, we'll talk about the ending here, but the ending is way more tame than the actual source material is. So, but speaking of Long John Silver, the man that really makes this movie good, better probably than it could have been if anybody else had been cast in this role. And actually, at one point, both David Bowie and Mick Jagger were both considered for the role of Long John Silver. I don't really see either of those as much as I love David Bowie. I definitely don't see Mick Jagger. David Bowie, as much as I love David Bowie, no, I don't see it either.
Not in this one.
And funnily enough, Bowie had been considered by Disney to play another pirate in one of their earlier, in a movie that came out 5 years prior, Captain Hook in Hook.
Wow.
Where it went to Dustin Hoffman. But no, I think for the betterment of everybody, they got the right actor for this role in Tim Curry.
Yes.
Who I love.
Yes. It's like, how can you imagine anybody else in this movie? I mean, I know when you're casting, they're people, they're going through all these different names and who would be the best one, and then they get Tim Curry, and then they see it. Then you make the movie, you put it together, and then you see it, and they're like, oh yeah, that they did good. Nobody else could have done that. And what I love is, it's playing it. A lot of actors could have just, with a wink and a nod, and just not taking it seriously, because you're playing against Muppets, like for real. But he plays it straight, but he's still, but it's like he's in on the joke, which he is. But but he treats them like characters. I love the part where he's berating like who is it, the goat who gives him the black spot. And then he just starts yelling about, you tore a page out of the Bible.
Yeah, because the piece of paper is out of the Bible.
Yeah, because the paper and the goat is I can't remember his name now. I'm blanking on it. He goes, oh, here you go. Clueless Morgan, that's it.
Yeah.
And then Tim Curry's just yelling like, fall on your knees, you sinners, and just reading them hellfire and damnation because of what they've done. And it's like, you are cursing a bunch of Muppets for tearing out a page of the Bible to create the black spot.
And that's the thing with the kind of
it's funny, but it's also serious.
Yeah. It's one of those things that they just kind of do with the Muppets in general. And this, it's been the case since the Muppets were a thing, all the way back with the Muppet Show, which, will be on Disney Plus actually by the end of this week. So woohoo! So you can actually go watch it.
Yes.
And remind yourself that they've never treated them as like they're puppets. They've acknowledged the fact that they're not human. And they do that in this movie too. They're like, well, he's like a Kermit shows up and they're like, he's a frog. Not that he's a puppet, he's a frog.
Yeah. Maybe he gets hopping mad.
Yes.
says the rat.
Yes. Yeah. So they'll acknowledge when they're other species, but they never acknowledge the fact that these are not human beings. They'll acknowledge when humans are humans.
Yep.
But not the other way around. And I think that's what works so well with the Muppets, and that's what Jim always did from the minute that he created them, is he always treated them like they are actual performers.
Yeah.
And all of the Muppeteers, even to this day, are like that with the characters that they do. I've got a whole bunch of links I'm going to put in the show notes with a whole bunch of like behind the scenes stuff that I found on YouTube. I love that YouTube is such a treasure trove of things like this for when we do, things like this. And there's a whole section where they're interviewing like Brian and some of the other Muppeteers and stuff, and they talk about the characters like they are people, and Jim always wanted them to treat them like they're actual characters, and like, if you feel like, you could upstage, another character while doing a skit or something, do it. They have personalities and they lean into them. Miss Piggy is a diva.
Yes.
Kermit is kind of the leader of the group and just trying to keep the chaos under control while everything is literally, just falling to pieces around him. So, it's I think it's a brilliant mindset, and I think that's what's helped keep the Muppets going. Is you treat them like they are their own people, their own personalities.
And even in interviews or press or things like that, they don't. I mean, they talk to the Muppets. They don't talk to the humans controlling them. Because in promos or anything else, and even when, I mean, this is Sesame Street, so a little different, but even when Carol Spinney would do Big Bird or Oscar for press, mostly Oscar, but he would insist, like, this is Oscar, he's his own guy. And which is, it's always been intriguing to me. And even when I was a little kid, I was like I knew they were puppets, but I was like, but they're not treating them like puppets, so okay, we'll just go with it.
They treat them like they are actual living, breathing things, and you find yourself treating them the same way.
Yep.
I think I've told this story before, but oh my goodness, I think it was like our second wedding anniversary trip to Disney World, I think. So it's quite a while ago. God, it would have been 10 years ago.
Oh my gosh.
Chauncey and I were at the Magic Kingdom the same day that they were doing some of the filming for the Christmas parade, because they will film that in early December, and then it airs obviously on Christmas Day on TV. But they do the filming at both parks on both coasts, and then they edit it all together, and it's all magical and everything. But the day we were there, they were filming a part of the parade on Main Street, some of the stage performances up by the castle, including Justin Bieber. Oh my God. That was interesting, and trying to avoid all the Bieber fans. But it just so happened that they were filming some segments with Kermit the Frog. And Steve Whitmire, who was the puppeteer for Kermit for the longest time after Jim passed, was there, and it was out in the open. So he was standing right there, with his hand up in the air with Kermit, and they were filming Kermit, with Steve out of camera view. But they had it was almost like Secret Service detail, like people you can watch. Nobody take a picture of Steve with his hand up Kermit's back. And even when they were done and Kermit went into his essentially carrying case where he's put in storage when he's not when he's not needed, they were like, don't take pictures. We want to preserve the magic that is Kermit the Frog. It was really wild because they were just so adamant about it. It's like, don't take any pictures, don't take any video, feel free to watch, but do not, do not record any of this for posterity. So,
do not ruin the magic.
Yes, do not ruin the magic, because they're very concerned about that.
Yeah.
But that was pretty wild though, to get to see Kermit in action in the wild. I also got to see Zendaya before she's who she is now.
Yeah. So. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Screw Justin Bieber. I saw Kermit the Frog and Zendaya before she was Zendaya. So
there you go.
But anyway, back to the Muppets.
Back to the Muppets. Yeah.
Sorry.
Nah, it's all good. I mean,
hey, how many people can say they got to see Kermit the Frog in person?
Right, and like in the middle of
action,
working as they do. So
mm-hmm.
you know that's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
Yep.
Gosh, I don't know. I mean, this movie, it's so quirky and so funny. I mean, I don't know how many times I've sung the Cabin Fever song.
Yeah.
Just kind of to myself, you know. It's catchy, it's hilarious, and it's kind of snarky too.
Yeah.
Because there's like all these little bits that are, because you know they're all kind of going insane because the ship isn't moving.
Yeah.
And so there's, you know, they have the little German Muppets, you know, up on the side going, you know, well, not really German, but they're in lederhosen going, you know,
Wiener
Wiener Schnitzel und wunderbar.
Yeah.
And I will even to this day, even if I haven't seen the movie in a while, I will just find myself humming that song because it's just so funny. And it's one that it's stuck with me forever. It's one of those, you know, you have especially Disney songs, but just one of those that I just always remember. Like, you know, especially if I'm bored, I'm like, I've got the madness, I got cabin fever, I've got it too. Apologies to our Scottish listeners or whatever that accent was supposed to be. It's just ridiculous. We got cabin fever.
Yeah. Well, and the whole like cabin fever like musical number came out of the fact that the script writers are like, the second, like your second act is usually your hardest, because it's like, oh, you know, you've done all this character introduction and world building and everything, but then you need to find a good reason to keep everything going to get to that third final act where usually you're going to have like some sort of confrontation. In this case, you know, eventually get to a sword fight ish.
Yes.
And he, you know, the writers are like, well, how do we get there? How do we come up with something for the second act where
I mean, they're just,
your audience is not going to be like, oh, can we just get to the sword fighting? And they were like, cabin fever.
Yep. Well, and that's actually a problem that several adaptations of Treasure Island have, because there's all this section where they're just sailing to the island, and you know, you could do a montage of, I mean, Treasure Planet did it, of you know, that you know, just stuff happening, but you know, for that, but this is the Muppets, so for them to need, like, you know, they need to have something funny and goofy to go on, because you know, day-to-day life on a ship is not that exciting. So you know, the ship stalls out and cabin fever, and they all, it's completely bonkers, and it is completely Muppets, and it is perfect.
Yeah.
And the kids love it. It's catchy. You're gonna remember it. So just go with it.
Yeah. Although I kind of like the Sailing for Adventure song when they first get, you know, the ship's getting ready to take off.
Oh yeah, well, that one's sort of the end of the. Yeah, that one's sort of the end of the first act, I feel like.
Yeah.
That one is good too. It's not silly like Cabin Fever.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like over the top, but it's got some funny bits in there. I do like because Rizzo has decided that if they don't find any treasure, that it shouldn't be a complete waste. So it's doubling essentially as like a, you know, a Caribbean cruise
with all these rats, and
with all these rats dressed up like tourists and everything, and you know, he's taking souvenir photos. So yeah, when they get into this number, and you know, the rats, you know, the rest of the crew is all like, you know, there's distant lands with burning sands that call across the ocean, and the rats are like, there's bingo games every fun-filled day, and there's margaritas at the midnight buffet.
Margaritas at the midnight buffet. No, okay. I'm going to admit to something here. For the longest time, I thought the rat who sang that line, her name was Margarita, and she was hanging out at the midnight buffet.
Yeah.
and so you have these hardened pirates who are capable of violence. It seems like very much so. And then you have the rats on the cruise saying, "Would you knock it off with the booze? You're peeling the paint off the shuffleboard court."
Yeah.
Stuff like that. It's like, okay, you probably shouldn't antagonize these people, but you're gonna do it anyway because you're on a cruise and you paid a lot of money to be here. So
Well, or in the fact that when the rat tourists are checking in, and Rizzo's like, please make out your checks to rat cruises or rat tours limited or something. We put the rat in pirate, and he checks in one of the families. He's like, right this way, Mr. Plagueman. Because rats, plague.
Yes, rats
ships.
on a ship.
Yes, carrying the plague. Yeah. It's just one of those. And
it's one of those jokes that you're like, oh my gosh, I get it. And of course the Muppets are the ones who do this.
Yes, yeah. But the way Rizzo says it, just so matter of factly, like it's not a joke to
No,
but give me your money. So, what I want to know is Kermit. I want to call him Kermit. I know that he's not going by Kermit, but it's just easier just to use their Muppet names. But Kermit at one point is like, no, there's not going to be any alcohol on this ship, which it helps keep the rating down. It saves them the issue of crazy rum drinking pirates. But then where are the rats getting the margaritas if there's no alcohol on the ship?
We're not discussing that. I guess we're gonna hand wave it. But yeah, they lampshade it. Because they're pirates. They do terrible things. They have questionable morals, and you're trying to keep it G-rated.
Mm-hmm.
But I love how they lampshade it. How Kermit's like, we have to set an example for this questionable crew.
Yeah.
Just so you're like, it's like, okay, you're the captain. Were you not involved in picking the crew, or did you trusted the guy with the man in his finger to do it?
Oh, yeah, it's no alcohol. It keeps some of the crew from leaning more into their personalities that are given when they do roll call.
Yep.
Oh, that's so funny. Don't want Clueless Morgan to get any more clueless. Yeah. So when you get cabin fever, but then that helps. It just is so zacky and crazy that when it ends, it's like, oh yeah, now we're gonna get back more into the plot, and Long John Silver has now figured out that there actually is a treasure map, and now he's gonna show his true colors, which we all knew that, even if with the source material, but then Billy Bones is like, beware the one-legged man, which considering the time period, that's not specific enough.
No, it really isn't.
How many people lose a leg during this time period? Quite a bit.
especially when you're running around with sharp, pointy objects and trying to hack at people for it, and some of them are not very talented with that.
Yeah. So that's but of course it's Long John Silver, so we know that he's trouble.
Yes.
So.
Even if you haven't read the book, you probably know what it is. Who the bad guy is.
Yeah. And they did try to do a peg leg for Tim, but it was too uncomfortable, so they ended up switching to him using the crutch.
Yeah. Which I think it works better because I don't know, I like it better. It just kind of fits, and he plays it up really well with hobbling around on
it ends up being a good plot device later too. when he tricks.
Yeah, he almost like he acts. It enhances his acting, I think.
Yeah. So, but yeah. So there's essentially not really mutiny because they don't really do the mutiny, but there's just they end up tricking kind of the pirates at Long John Silver to get off the ship, but then Silver knows that it's a trick, so they end up tricking Jim off the ship, so then the Muppets can't leave, which is what they were planning on doing. So but then we finally get to the island and go to the where the treasure is supposed to be located that had been buried there long time before by Captain Flint, and there's nothing there. But then Miss Piggy shows up and it creates a whole other mess of personality clashes, because apparently she just goes through like pirates and captains like
oh no, him too.
Yeah,
he had married me.
Yeah, it's like Kermit left her at the altar, took off.
So she's like, well, I guess I'll go.
Yeah, she
hook
hooked
up with
Flint,
this other one.
Got to the island. Apparently, was not part of the massacre that Flint did, but he left her there. But at some point, she also hooked up with Long John Silver. At some point, so she's now like queen of the natives on this island and has taken all the treasure, and it's at her place.
Yeah. Bring me back my frog, you scoundrel.
Yeah.
Oh, Miss Piggy, what are we gonna do with you?
But then you have to have Kermit and Miss Piggy make up and get back together, so we have this lovely love song while they're hanging upside down off the edge of a cliff.
Yes.
Which is pretty impressive Muppeteering, if you ask me.
Oh, of course. And one other thing I really love about this number is they're singing this really sappy, slow song, which, a lot of kids are probably like, okay, whatever, they get bored. And then they intercut it with the pirates finding Miss Piggy's house with all the treasure, and they're like, celebrating and dancing with it. And it's funny while they're singing about, a lovey-dovey song. And you know what? Great, fine, because I mean, you take it on a different level, like, love led us here. We love treasure. It's all we want. So it works for the pig and the frog, and it works for the pirates and their massive amounts of gold.
Yes.
And again, going back to Tim Curry playing this part. I mean, it's Tim Curry, so you expect nothing less. But he is just enraptured by all of this pirate gold, the same way that the silly Muppet characters are. And it's
because at the end of the day, he's still a pirate.
Yes,
even if you're a professional pirate,
you don't have to wear a suit.
This is my one number.
Yes, and he's going to do it well. He's gonna. Very excited about
Yes. Well, sea shanties have become a thing in 2021. So,
apparently
they were just 25 years ahead of their time.
Yes.
Little did they know that,
We don't have anything else to do.
Yeah.
At the time.
The sea shanties have become a thing. So,
wow.
Yeah. So I don't know if Cabin Fever counts as a sea shanty, but
that one's a little more. I don't know what to call it.
Yeah,
a little more. I don't want to say musical, like on a smaller level. But
yeah.
Anyway, it's more over the top.
Yeah. It's a sea shanty of a modern age. So
Yes.
And very appropriate. We've all got cabin fever. None of us are on a ship.
Yep.
None of us have to take seasick pills. Which apparently Brian was so sure that everyone was going to get nauseated from the ship set being on a gimbal. Because that's what they do. So they can, it's, pneumatics and stuff, and it allows it to look like it's floating on water. So on the first day, he gave them all Dramamine, essentially.
Yep.
And found out really quickly that one, being on a gimbal does not make you sick, because the movement is not as extreme.
Really.
Yeah, it's not as enough. Your inner ear can help compensate for that type of movement. But it made everybody extremely drowsy.
Oh gosh. They had their own version of cabin fever.
Yeah,
I guess.
It was cabin nap time. So yeah, after that he's like, okay, never mind, don't worry about the Dramamine. And everybody's like, yeah, you don't get sick on the gimbals. So
good to know.
That was good. Let's see here, what else behind the scenes stuff. Tim Curry considers this one of his favorite roles,
of course,
that he's ever done. They ended up giving him his own custom Muppet in the likeness of him as Long John Silver.
Wow.
As a memento. Yeah, and I actually found a clip of him with the Muppet, so you can see it. It's sitting right next to him. So it's pretty spot on. If you took his Long John Silver and turned him into a Muppet, it's exactly what you'd expect it to look like. Which, maybe,
if you're gonna be in a Muppet movie and you'll star opposite the Muppets, that's kind of awesome souvenir to get.
Yeah,
it's like not everybody has one of those.
Yeah. As far as the release, speaking of after they finished filming, of course it needs to be released. Yes. They did release a making of documentary on the Disney Channel, and then a direct-to-video Muppet sing-along VHS hosted by Kermit the Frog that features 2 musical numbers from the film. Remember the days of VHS, folks?
Yes.
Yep. Which I think that making of documentary is one of the things I found on YouTube that'll be in the show notes.
Check it out when we get there.
Yeah. So this was the second Muppet film co-produced and released by Disney Pictures, following Muppet Christmas Carol. When they actually first came up with the idea, they didn't have a distributor for it.
Really?
But Walt Disney Pictures had a deal for first look, so they get first crack at it. As far as distribution, which obviously they decided to go ahead with that.
Of course.
So it opens February 16th. So as we're recording this, tomorrow it'll be the 25th anniversary. To slightly over 2,000 venues and earned almost $8 million in its opening weekend. So it ranked 3rd in the box office behind Broken Arrow, which was a John Woo action movie with John Travolta and Christian Slater, and Happy Gilmore. Adam Sandler movie. But at the time, it held the record for having the biggest opening weekend gross for a Disney film in February. So it did ultimately gross $34.3 million domestically, which, considering it had a budget of $31 million, not necessarily a home run.
Yeah, which is unfortunate because it is a fun movie.
Yeah. It's as far as release, it was mixed as far as reviews were concerned. Stephen Holden of the New York Times praised its playfulness as keeping the story amusingly off kilter. that sums up the Muppets right there. Amusingly keeping the story amusingly off kilter. So the mood is perfectly in keeping with the notion of the Muppets as contemporary children dressing up and improvising their own version of classic tales.
You say that like it's a bad thing.
No, that was actually a compliment.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah. Entertainment Weekly gave it a B+, calling it notably handsome in a dark, foreboding way. The Muppet action blends seamlessly with human actors and adults who will be kept giggling with witty and anachronistic jokes about codependence, water skiing, and Henry Kissinger. Which, yeah, when they're going through Billy's trunk and they pull out a book. I can't remember the name of the book now, but it's written by Henry Kissinger, and apparently one of the members of the crew is Kissinger's like daughter-in-law or something, or niece or something. So that's why they put it in there.
Okay, I'm like, that's an odd choice.
Yeah. Hey, Holly made it.
Holly.
Yes, finally.
Hello.
Sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
Life happens.
Yeah.
Yes.
Especially with the weather that we're having in our neck of the woods.
Yeah. Hopefully not Holly from Hoth for too much longer.
Yeah. Roger Ebert gave it 2.5 stars out of 4. He did praise Tim Curry's performance, but he called the film less cleverly written, and it's for moi, it's a near miss. And his counterpart, Gene Siskel, gave it 2 stars out of 4, calling it a boring Muppet adventure that doesn't successfully meld the Muppets into a conventional buried treasure story. I wanted the Muppets to play themselves rather than phony pirate-related characters.
He may have a point on the bit about the Muppets playing themselves. That being said, I liked the idea of the Muppets playing, literary characters in these literary stories. I wish they could have done more with it. Like, made it like, the way Disney does fairy tales. This would be the Muppets doing literature, I guess.
Yeah.
But then again, then you'd have the Muppets Hunchback at Notre Dame, maybe. Oh no.
Yeah. Let's not give them any ideas.
Let's not go down that way. I don't think they need to.
Yeah. Did you know that there was a video game?
No.
Yes, there was a Muppet Treasure Island CD-ROM game for Windows PC.
It was the 90s. There were video games for every kid's movie.
Yeah, you play as Hawkins, and you leave the Admiral Benbow in to sail to Treasure Island. Gonzo and Rizzo accompanying you, and so does Stevenson the parrot, who was supposed to be the parrot before they decided that Long John Silver was going to have a lobster instead. So the parrot gives you hints throughout the game, and the thing is animated, but then you get cutaway video clips with the Muppet characters. So all the Muppet performers did the voices. Tim Curry and Billy Connolly both appear as Long John Silver and Billy Bones. Yeah, it was released. It was released for Windows and Mac OS by Activision. There was a DVD-ROM version that was also released. It would end up being bundled with some DVD-ROM kits, God, it sounds just all that technology just sounds so dated now.
Yes. Oh yeah, that was a thing.
But back then, that was cutting edge technology.
Yeah. Apparently, it's not a bad game though. PC Zone gave the game an 80 out of 100, and Entertainment Weekly gave the game an A.
All right then.
Yeah.
So
have to go track that down, I guess.
Yeah. According to Rotten Tomatoes, the film has an approval rating of 70% based on 27 reviews, which is not a lot. I think we need to go in there and put in some reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. Has an average rating of 6.2 out of 10.
Yeah, everybody get in there and rate and review it on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah. But the consensus is, though less Muppet-centric than the original trilogy, Muppet Treasure Island is an energetic, cheerful take on Robert Louis Stevenson's classic Avenger with typically solid gags. Cinema Score, based on audience polls, has an average rating of an A-.
Now, okay, I had a thought about this, about how, it's not as Muppet-centric as the others. Because in my head, and I saw these Muppet movies as a kid all at once, all, together. So I didn't have that gap of, there's a new Muppet movie coming out, Great Muppet Caper or whatever. So I saw the Muppet movie, and that's, supposed to be the origin story. This is how they get to Hollywood and how their career gets started. And I didn't have the Muppet Show. It wasn't available anywhere for me. So I look at these movies as, this is the Muppets' Hollywood career. It's like they get there and you don't play yourself. You play pirates. You play Bob Cratchit. You play, you don't play yourself. And so this kind of made sense to me in that, they got to Hollywood and now they're making their own movies. So I don't know. And maybe this is blasphemy because I didn't grow up with the Muppet Show. I did have Muppets Tonight, but it wasn't like a real touchstone in my life. Yeah. But these movies were for me. Yeah. So it's like, this is their movie career, and it makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like the Muppet, like the first Muppet movie is like, like you said, it's like their origin story. And then movies like this are like what they do once they get to Hollywood.
Right.
So, yeah. Makes sense to me. So, now, do you guys know about the lawsuit that came from this movie?
No.
No.
There was a lawsuit?
Yeah.
Who is suing the Muppets?
Hormel Foods.
What?
Apparently,
the ham company.
They sued Jim Henson Productions for using the name Spam.
Oh. Okay.
For the kind of spokesperson for the pig natives.
Okay, Hormel, wait a couple years and then you can sue the internet.
Yeah. Well, it went to trial, but the trial failed to prove any damages, so the judge threw it out. And the judge said, and I quote, "One might think Hormel would welcome the association with a genuine source of pork."
Yes.
Because I'm like, okay, if you're trying to save your branding of Spam by, don't let the Muppets use the word spam, you're doing it wrong.
Why didn't they take a certain comedy troupe to court with Spam-A-Lot?
Well, that was after. That was
but you know what I'm getting at.
They learned their lesson by then.
Yeah.
Maybe they should have like done some product placement or market.
Yeah.
It's like,
I think they learned their lesson because they did do that with Spam-A-Lot was released as a speaking of which, starring Tim Curry in the original production. So Tim Curry can't get away from spam apparently.
Apparently not. But that's all right.
But yeah, no, just the association with a genuine source of pork that just tickles me in the best way possible. And this is coming from someone who has eaten spam before and actually doesn't dislike it. So, but I know that it's not the same as having like a pork chop.
No. It's one of those things that you have in your emergency storage, and hopefully you don't need it, but if there's no food and that's all you have, then better than some things. Maybe.
Yeah. But yeah, I read that and I just cracked up. The whole thing just funny. So yeah, not necessarily the probably as beloved as Christmas Carol, but if you want to watch a fun Muppet movie with some fun musical numbers,
yes,
and you don't necessarily want to get into the Christmas feel of things, it's a good go-to.
Yeah. So it'll tickle your Muppet itch, I guess.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's Tim Curry.
Yes. I mean, you cannot go wrong with Tim Curry.
Yeah.
Come on, guys.
Yeah.
And Billy Connolly. Come on, those two.
Well, yes. The only bad thing about it is they never share scenes together.
And that's too bad, because I would have loved to have seen those two share screen time. Maybe they did that purposely because they probably wondered, or they probably figured that there'd be too many shenanigans going on.
Yeah. Or maybe it would upstage the Muppets. It's like, you know what? Forget the Muppets.
Yeah.
Let's just have the Tim and Billy show.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I could see that kind of evolving into that.
Which would be unfortunate because we love the Muppets.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
but yeah, good times.
Yes. So,
good times.
Anyway, so check out Muppet Treasure Island if you haven't in a while. It's on Disney Plus, or if you own the DVD or whatever. And then we'll post these links for behind the scenes stuff, which is always fun to watch. Excuse me. But yeah. So yeah, I mean, like you said, it's not as beloved as Muppet Christmas Carol, but it's a fun one that I do enjoy.
Yeah.
So anyway,
yeah, and as more and more of the Muppet stuff becomes available on Disney Plus, just because even though Disney, we'll get into this, it's on the list of topics that we're going to do eventually, but it's one of those where I'm going to it's going to require quite a bit of research before we do it, but we will talk about just kind of the history of the Muppets, because the legal standing of them with Disney is weird.
Yeah, well, it's
because it is, especially when you consider you've got the Muppets and you've got Sesame Street, which were all created by Jim. It's all Jim Henson stuff, but they're different entities and therefore have different ownership and licensing and everything.
Yeah,
the same.
It was
other
Jim,
not like Fraggle Rock and Dark Crystal and Labyrinth and stuff. So
Jim, he created these and he needed distribution, someone to distribute it. So there was stuff like, they had to go to Columbia or or NBC for the Muppet Show? I don't remember.
But they had to do their production in London because they couldn't. Because it was cheaper to go overseas and do it there, and then just ship it back to the United States for like showing on TV.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was. I mean, there's a great like 5-part documentary on YouTube about Jim Henson's career. Defunct Land is the YouTube channel. So if we'll discuss it, but if you want to check it out, I highly recommend it. It's a great one.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just interesting. It's not like he has his own studio. He's a sort of a journeyman. With all his properties.
Yeah. It was almost like his own personal circus, Yeah. He's P.T.
much.
Barnum and
and he just needs someone to, like who owns the venue that will help distribute all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then and at even one point, because Disney, they were in talks with Jim to get the Muppets, and Michael Eisner was like, so about that Sesame Street, that's looking pretty good. You gonna throw that in there too? And Jim was adamant that no.
Nope.
But he kept bringing it up.
Sesame Street does have a presence in Central Florida, just not at a Disney park.
Yep. So yeah.
Sesame Street's at SeaWorld, I think.
Well, there you go. So yeah, we'll do more Muppet stuff as we go in future. But anyway, Holly, anything you wanted to add or?
Nope.
Okay. Well, if any of our listeners want to chime in with their 2 cents on Muppet Treasure Island or any Muppet type stuff that you want us to discuss, let us know. Our email address is 5ishfangirls@gmail.com. We'll read out your feedback on the show. Also, you can leave comments on our Facebook page, on our Instagram or YouTube channel. Links to all that is on our website at the5ishfangirls.com. And if you want to support the podcast, we have a Patreon, we have an Amazon store, we have an Audible affiliate link, and we have a merchandise shop. So check all those out. And also wherever you get podcasts, there we are. So whatever your favorite podcast app is, check us out. And thanks again for all your support, for everything that, for listening to us, for sending feedback, for supporting us. We can't do it without you. I mean, we'd sit here and chit chat to ourselves, but we want to share the insanity a little bit. and for those who are enjoying our deep philosophical discussions, we can't have it all the time. Although there's probably some people who are like, would you stop talking religion?
No religion, no religion here, just gold.
Yes.
Big piles of gold that sink to the bottom of the ocean.
And then the cruise rats, if you watch the credits, which you have to watch the credits on this one. Yes. And not for post-credit scenes, but while the credits are rolling. They go down, they get the scuba gear and they go, or the jet ski, and they go down and haul up the treasure chest. So if you've ever watched this movie and turned off the credits, you're missing out.
Mm-hmm. There is a mid-credit scene though.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, because Long Johnny, he goes out on the lifeboat, and
the one that apparently did not pass Sam
and
Eagle's inspection.
Yeah. Mr. Arrow goes, I know for a fact that it was unsafe.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they look out and like, oh dear.
Okay.
He's just loaded down with treasure and it's just sinking.
Yeah, but he does. But he does. He gets back to the island, and
he's not alone for conversation. We'll just leave it at that.
Yes.
He doesn't have to resort to talking to himself, although he probably wishes that was the case.
Exactly. Yeah. Company, but was it the company that he actually wanted?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh my. Gotta love it. So
yes, it's very silly.
Yep. All right. Well, on that note, we shall sign off for this week.
This is Chrissy saying goodnight from Salt Lake City.
This is Holly from Wisconsin saying good evening.
And this is Rachel in very, very snowy Indianapolis, Indiana. To the southeast, multi-armed Zanzibanian women, short women and their exploding wigs of death.
We got cabin fever, we lost what sense we had. We got cabin fever, we're all going mad.
You have been listening to the Five-ish Fangirls podcast. You can find more episodes and information at the5ishfangirls.com. Any and all books, movies, games, and any other forms of media mentioned are owned and operated by the respective copyright holders. No copyright infringement is intended or implied. If you wish to support the show, the easiest way is to leave us a rating and review. More ratings and reviews will make it easier for others to find the show. If you wish to support us monetarily, you can do so at patreon.com/5ishfangirlspodcast. All money goes towards fees and equipment to keep the show going. For official Five-ish Fangirls merchandise, visit redbubble.com/people/5ishfangirls. We love hearing from our listeners and encourage feedback. You can email us at fiveishfangirls@gmail.com. You could also like and follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/5ishfangirls. Thank you so much for listening, and may the squee be with you.
I'm dreaming of a blue lagoon. Now I'm as crazy as a loon. Cabin fever is ravaged all aboard. This one-stop vessel has become a floating psycho ward. We were sailing, heading who knows where. And now though we're all here,